Hello, welcome back to another lesson. Today I'm going to give you guys 3 things that you can add to your playing so you can sound a bit more like Jimi Hendrix, and this will build on top of this video. So if you haven't watched it, then watch it now. It's like the best video in the world. And yeah, come back to this video. Other than that, we've hit 5,000 subscribers, which is honestly insane. Never thought I'd see the day. So thank you so much for the support. And I've got good news. So 5 minutes from now, maybe 10 minutes, I'll timestamp it. Actually, I won't, so you have to watch the video. But I've got some really good news that you don't want to miss. And yeah, let's get straight into it. An interval is the distance between 2 notes, and every interval has its own unique name. If we take a G major scale starting on the 3rd fret of the low E string, we have this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1 again. Now an example of an interval would be, say, us playing our root note, 1, on the 3rd fret of the low E string, and then playing 2, which will be the 5th fret of the low E string, and then figuring out the distance between 1 and 2. This will be 2 frets. And this will be called a major second. Anyways, the distance between 1 and 3 will be 4 frets, and this will be called a major third. 3 would be on the 7th fret of the low E string. The distance between 1 and 4, this will be called a perfect fourth, 4 being on the 3rd fret of the A string. The distance between 1 and 5 will be called a perfect fifth, 5 being on the 5th fret of the A string. 1 and 6, this will be called a major 6, 6 being on the 7th fret of the A string. And 1 and 7, this will be called a major 7, 7 being on the 4th fret of the D string. And then 1 and 1, or 1 and 8, this will be called an octave. Now, what you want to do is memorize the names for all of these intervals, because in the future, if you want to be a good player, you want to know roughly what they sound like. It will help with improvisation and whatnot. But for now, we're going to focus on 3 intervals today: thirds, sixths, sixths, and octaves. So the first one we want to look at is a third. And when it comes to doing all this rhythm stuff, you can use thirds to make your playing sound a bit cooler. You can use thirds to do some cool stuff, right? And just get that kind of Hendrix-y type of flowy stuff on top of your chords. So, how do we do thirds? First, we want to know what a third is, and now you know what a third is. It's just the distance between 2 notes, and you know a third from the root note would be 4 frets. But we want to play the 1, the root note, and the third at the same time. So how do we do this? We need to find 3 on a different string. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, pause the video here, and see if you can find our third, which is the 7th fret of the E string, on the A string. Have a go. I'll assume you didn't pause it, so I'll just tell you the answer. 3 would also be on the 2nd fret of the A string. And you can verify this by playing 3 on the 7th fret of the E string and the 2nd fret of the A string and seeing if they sound the same. They both sound exactly the same, so that's where our third will be. So if we had to play 1 and 3 at the same time, we have 1 on the 3rd fret of the E string, and 3, we figured out that it's on the 2nd fret of the A string. Cool. So you can say this is our shape for a major third. If I'm on 1, then my third will be down 1 string and back 1 fret. And this works anywhere, wherever I am on the fretboard, down 1 string and back 1 fret. And I've got that third sound. So the next interval we have to learn is something called a minor third, and to get a minor third, all we have to do is flatten our major third. So if you go to the third fret of the low E string, that's our root note 1, and then we figured out that if we go down one string and back one fret, then we have our major third. Now 3 is going to be on the second fret of the A string. To get a minor third, all we have to do is flatten it and move it back by one fret. So now it's on the first fret of the A string. Major third sounds happy, minor third sounds sad. We also know that the 3 is on the 7th fret of the E string, but to turn that into a minor third, we just flatten it, and now it's on the 6th fret of the E string. So within this scale shape that I'm going to put on the screen, I want you to look carefully at the shapes. Don't look at the numbers, but look at the shapes. Our minor third looks like this, down one string, back one fret, and our major third looks like this, down one string, back one fret, and our minor third looks like this, down one string and back 2 frets. So within this scale, 1 and 3 follow the major third pattern. Then when I move it up to 2 and then 4, that's going to look like a minor third. If I show a different diagram, let's go back to the one we used at the start of the lesson. If you look at 3 and 5, that's a minor third shape. So to kind of use thirds, you want to see this kind of pattern but all across the fretboard. And to do that, you need to see the fretboard diatonically. Now if you don't know how to do that, I go through it in Guitar Alchemy, my online lessons, but I think I go through it in this video here if you watched it. If I don't, I'm very sorry. But I'm assuming you know how to do this. So if we look at the fretboard diatonically like this, then what we're going to do is see the thirds across 2 strings at a time. So if I go starting from the 3rd fret of the low E string, if I look at here, I know that's a third. I've got 1 and 3. And then when I go to the next note in the scale, 2 and 4, I know that's going to be a minor third apart. Then when I go in the next note of the scale, 3 and 5, I know that's a minor third apart. When I go to the next note in the scale, 4 and 6, I know that's a major third. When I go to 5 and 7, I know that's a major third. And when I go to 6 and 1, I know that's a minor third. So you want to be able to see this across 2 strings at a time. So while I'm playing, let's say I'm doing some random thing, G major chord, I can use these major and minor thirds within this key diatonically to add some little, I don't know, jazz to it. Obviously I can use more of the strings, but this is the idea behind it by seeing thirds. If we go to the A string on the 3rd fret of the A string, from here I can see a third here. From the next note of the A string, so this will be the 5th fret, I can see a major third. Then here I can see a minor third, and then the next part I can see a minor third, and then the next part I can see a major third, and so on. Right? When I go to the next string, I can see a minor third. Then I can see a major third, then a minor third, then a minor third, then a major third, then a major third, then a minor third. Right? Now it gets a bit different when you get to the B string, because the way the guitar is tuned, I forgot, man, it's something to do with force or something. But we have to shift our patterns up by 1 fret. So what would originally be a third, our pattern of going back 1 string and back 1 fret, now the third's just going to be on top of our 1. I'll just show a diagram, bro. I'm waffling at this point. But basically, if our 1 is on the 4th fret of the G string, then our third won't be back 1 string and back 1 fret on the 3rd fret of the B string, but it will be on the 4th fret of the B string, because we take our pattern and we shift it up by 1. I go through this in this video, but I call it the B string because any pattern or formula you have when you're moving towards the B string, you have to shift it by 1. So our third originally looked like this, but now it's on the B string, it's going to look like this. But other than that, it stays the same after the B string. So if I'm on the G string and I'm doing our thirds and whatnot, then it's going to look something like this. Here I can see a minor third, because remember we move it up by 1 fret. And then I can see a major third, then major third, then minor third, then minor third, then major third. So this is what I mean by seeing it on 2 strings at a time. So while you're jamming, you can start adding thirds in to make it a bit more interesting. And here I'm not thinking numbers. I'm not thinking numbers at all. I'm just thinking, okay, now I've got the framework diatonically. I see like this and I know which notes will give me a third and which notes won't. If I start hitting notes that are outside of this framework, that's when I'll get some weird sounds. But if I know what notes work together, then I can always, well, most of the time, make a nice sound. What's that song by John Mayer? Yeah, it's that part of the song. In Gravity, he does a third on the 7th fret, no, 9th fret of the D string and 7th fret of the G string. A minor third, and then he does a minor third on the 7th fret of the D string and the 5th fret of the G string. I lost my pick, so I'm using my fingers. But you get the picture. So that's how you'll see thirds across the fretboard. You've got 2 patterns, major third, minor third, and then your job is just to see the fretboard diatonically and see thirds within that. Alright, so we've done thirds. A sixth. A sixth is the next interval on the list. So how do we get a 6? We do our major scale again. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But this time we're just going to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we determine the distance between 1 and 6, similar to what we did with our thirds. From 1 to 3rd fret of the low E string, a 6 would be, I'm not even going to say 6th anymore. I'm just going to say 6. A 6 will be down 1 string and up 4 frets. So 7th fret of the A string. And that's the distance between 1 and 6. But obviously you're not going to be playing you're not going to be playing it like this, because you can, but it's just not as convenient. So your task, pause the video here, and all I want you to do is find 6, which is the 7th fret of the A string, but find it on the D string. Okay, I got carried away. Anyways, I'll assume you didn't pause. Basically, a 6 would be on the 2nd fret of the D string. And if you play the 7th fret of the A string and the 2nd fret of the D string, you can see that they make the same sound. So we can also play a 6 on the 2nd fret of the D string. So now we've got a 1 on the 3rd fret of the E string and 6 on the 2nd fret of the D string. So remember this little pattern. If you want to find a 6 from your root note, just go down 2 strings and back 1 fret. And this is called a major 6. Cool. Now, how can we turn a major 6 into a minor 6? We'll do the exact same thing we did with the third. All we have to do is flatten our 6. And flatten just means go down one fret. So if it's on the second fret of the D string, we'll just move it to the first fret of the D string. Go back by 1. So now this will be called a minor 6. Then major 6. Minor 6. And it's that simple. So before we move forward, just remember major 6 is down 2 strings and back 1 fret, and minor 6 is down 2 strings and back 2 frets. Or instead of thinking of it as down 2 strings, back 1 fret, just think major 6, flatten the 6, minor 6. So what do we do with the B strings involved? If we go to the 4th fret of the G string, and then from there we want to find the 6th, then we know that we can go down 2 strings and then back 1 fret, and our 6 will be on the 3rd fret of the high E string. Now, because the B strings involved, you know that we need to follow the rule of shifting our interval or whatever pattern we have up by 1 fret. So our 6 will actually be on the 4th fret of the high E string. And to turn that into a minor 6, we just have to flatten our 6. So that puts us back on the 3rd fret of the high E string. Now, I know that this shape looks exactly like the shape we did earlier. The minor 6 when the B string's involved looks exactly like the major 6 without the B string. But you'll get used to it. The more you play guitar and practice, then it'll just be second nature to you to adjust things when the B string's there. So yeah, how do we see this across the fretboard? If I show you G diatonic vision that I like to talk about, here it is. And from here, if I'm doing it across the E string, then I know 1 and 6 will give us a major 6. 2 and 7 will give us a major 6 shape. And then 3 and 1 will give us a minor 6. And then 4 and 2 will give us a major 6. And then 5 and 3 will give us a major 6. And then 6 and 4 will give us a minor 6. And then 7 and 5 will give us a minor 6. And then 6 and 1 will give us... I mean, technically I'm not wrong because this is 6 and 1, but I meant to say 1 and 6. But 1 and 6 will give us a major 6. Cool. Now on the B string, if let's say I'm starting on the 4th fret of the G string, from here, if I'm doing 4th fret of the G string and 3rd fret of the E string, this will give me a minor 6. And then next, I'll have a major 6, and then a major 6, and then a minor 6, then a minor 6, then a major 6, then a major 6, then a minor 6. And that's how you want to see 6s across the fretboard, bruv. It's very simple. First, just learn the interval shapes, and then if you can see the fretboard diatonically, like I'm showing you, all you have to do is translate that across the strings. So boom, if I'm playing a G chord, yeah, I'll give you a quick example. Yeah? From here, I know that I could play these 3. They sound pretty nice to me. So while I'm playing a G, that's how you'd add 6s or 6th. I don't know how to say 6th, but I'll just say 6s. Now, if I want to add thirds, it'd be the exact same thing. And then when you put them together, thirds and 6s, you can get something like this. I hope that makes sense. At the end of the video, I'll just give you a little example with a chord progression, adding all the stuff I'm showing you. But for now, thirds is just down 1 string and back 1 fret, or 2 frets if you're doing a minor third. And 6 is down 2 strings and back 1 fret, or back 2 frets if you're doing a minor 6. No, I got this. Wait for it. I'm playing a nice chord. don't know if it was here. Yeah, it was here. There we go. So an octave is the last one on the list that I want to show you, and it's way more simpler because there's no minor octave or anything like that. So we go back to our major scale. The octave will be the 8th note of the major scale. Octave, octagon, 8. So that's going to be the 5th fret of the D string. So from 1, which is on the 3rd fret of the low E string, the octave will be on the 5th fret of the D string. Now, you might be wondering why I just call it 1 instead of 8. Well, if I call it 1, then you can see the repeating patterns across the fretboard, and it makes it easier to understand. But if I call it 8, then after that, we've got something called compound intervals, which is any number above 8. So you'll have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And it'll just make seeing the fretboard a lot more complicated than it needs to be. But that's something in the future. For now, just see it from numbers 1 to 7. When you get to 8, 8 is the same as 1. So, with muting, I'm just using the arch of my finger to mute the strings I don't want to hear. And yeah, that's really it. Try playing that first finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string and 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the D string, and use the arch of your first finger to mute the A, G, B and E string. So only the low E string and the D string are making a sound. Try that. I'll assume you can do it. Well done. Anyways, how do we see this across the fretboard? On the low E string, we've got this 1 to 1, and then the next one you can just see as 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, 5 to 5, 6 to 6, 7 to 7, and 1 to 1. Again, while I'm playing this, I am not thinking 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 2 to 3, 4 to 4, 5 to 5, and all that stuff. I'm just thinking, yo, this is my octave shape. Let me just put that sign on each note of the major scale. Yeah, if I started thinking numbers that much, I'll just be way slower and it will just be confusing to me. It wouldn't be confusing, but it wouldn't be efficient at all. It'll take too much time to suddenly think, yo, 5 to 5, da 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 da. It's too much information. Cool. So if the B string's involved, we do the same thing where we just move it up 1 fret. So say we're starting on the 5th fret of the D string. That's our root note. The rule is go down 2 strings and go up 2 frets. So that will give us our octave. But since we're on the B string, it won't be on the 7th fret of the B string. It will be on the 8th fret of the B string. And when it comes to muting, again, I'm using my first finger to mute all the strings underneath my first finger that I don't want to hear. And then I use the tip of my first finger to mute the A string. And while I'm strumming, I'm not strumming all of the strings because it'll be harder to mute the E string. I'm just strumming the strings that I want to hear a noise from. So I'm strumming around the D and B string. What was that Michael Jackson song? I forgot what it's called. I'll figure it out later. Something like... No, it's not even like that. I know what I'm talking about. I just forgot what the song's called. It's like dun. Da-da-da-da-dun. Da-da-da-da. What? What? Bum, bum, bum. You know the song. I know the song like... I'll figure out the song afterwards. But anyways, that's how you do an octave. Just go down 2 strings and up 2 frets. But if the B string's involved, go down 2 strings and up 3 frets. Yeah? Now, what I'm going to do is I'll do the special announcement first because there'll be some good news for a lot of people. And then I'll give you guys a chord progression. It's going to be very simple. G, C. Let's do A minor as well. And then D. And then what I'm going to do is pull up a diagram. And your goal will be to use what I've shown you. Sixths, thirds, and octaves. To kind of Hendrixify the chords. So we got bass, snare, sixth, bass, snare, thirds, sixth, octave. You're putting it all together now. At the start of this video, I said that I had a special announcement to make, and I'm not that good at verbally expressing myself. I'll probably write up a blog about this later, but for now, I'll keep it short and sweet. I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for 5,000 subs. It means a lot to me because I'm only doing this with an iPhone, a slow laptop. I don't have the fancy editing and, you know, the professional camera and the aesthetics and all that stuff, man. And sometimes I just can't be asked to make videos because of what I'm working with, but when I see 5,000 subs and people actually tuning into what I'm saying, it makes me want to carry on because it's like, yo, it's not all in vain. And there's also the fact that there's so much better channels out there. There's so much better guitarists, so many better teachers and whatnot. And you guys still, oh, I'm getting emotional. Yo, let me. That's bad. Yo, let me. You guys still tune into actually what I'm saying. So it means a lot, innit? Because I'm a very quiet and reserved guy. I'd never thought that I'd see myself talking in front of a camera like this. You know, sometimes my nan probably thinks I'm schizophrenic. You know, oh, put your finger here, put your finger here. She's probably thinking, who am I talking to? But yeah, just thank you guys very much. I'll type this up later, bro, because, you know, I already said I'm not good at talking. But as a gift, yeah, I'll put all my books on discount for the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see how it goes, but you can get all my books for 25 quid, bruv. So if you're struggling to unlock the fretboard, play like Hendrix, and you want more detail from these 2 videos alone, or even just build chords, see how the guitar works and all that stuff, then, yo, my books are on sale, bruv. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what this channel does in the future, because we've already hit 5,000 in 8 months, so who's to say we can't hit 10,000 by the end of the year? And actually make, I don't even know what I'm saying, bro. I'm not good at speeches. I'm gonna leave this in so you guys think that I'm human still and I'm not some robot. That's perfect. But yeah, how was that? Was that a good speech? I don't know. I don't have a script. Should I make a script? I should make a script. Nah, let's leave this in. Thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers, and I hope that you guys learn a lot from me. I hear you saying, yo, just stop talking, just finish the lesson. Thank you for the gift. I will finish the lesson. Anyways, peace. That's my announcement. Now that I've explained the theory, what I'm going to do is explain my thought process behind playing something like this. Okay, so basically the chords are G. I'll put the chords here, but I'm gonna have to take them off after so I can like show you the full diagram. So try to remember the chords. We got G, then C major 7, then A minor 7, then D dominant 7. So if you wanna put numbers to this, it's just 1, 4, 2, 5. So on the G chord, when I play that, also I'm doing bar chords for these because I know not everyone can use their thumb, but if you can use your thumb, then go for it. So for each chord, I'm seeing the guitar like a drum. The bass strings are bass drum, poof, 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 and the higher strings are the snare, or hi-hat, snare, So you've got this bass snare thing going to make the sound go boom, ka, boom, ka. So it's not just, but you've got a kind of wavy sound to it, right? So on each chord, I've got a count of 4. On the count of 1, I play the bass, so I've got 1. On the count of 2, I play the snare. And on 3 and 4, I've got extra time to do a little lick. So practically, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't really do it and count at the same time. It's quite hard, but that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Bass, snare, fill, fill. Bass, snare, fill, fill. Bass, snare, fill, 4, 1, bam, bam, bam. Bass, snare, fill, fill. Bass, snare, fill, fill. So we go to the G chord. We've got bass, snare, and then for the fill, I'm doing 6ths on this area here. So I've got 1 string on the 4th fret of the G string, and then we go to the 5th fret of the G string, major 6, and then the 7th fret of the G string, major 6 again. So you've just got these 3 little points here. Now you don't have to do this in this area. When you get more advanced with this, you can do some crazy thing like just jump over here and then do some 6 like that. But for now, to keep it nice and simple, bass, snare, and then these 3 points here, I'm doing some 6s. I'm using the tip of my finger to mute the strings above, and I'm strumming around those strings. I'm not strumming the full strings for that. So bass, snare, lick. And it could be anything. You don't have to copy what I'm doing. Just like get these ideas down. So for the next chord, C, I make sure that I play the next chord on the 1. So I'm not doing bass, snare, 4. I make sure that the next chord lands on 1. So it'll sound like this. Bass, snare, lick, lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. So I'm always switching chord on the 1. So when we go to C, this is what I'm doing. Again, I'm not doing this all the time. This is just an example. So we got bass, and I'm using my tip of my first finger to mute the E string. So bass, snare, and then I'm doing thirds, major thirds and minor thirds from the 5th fret of the D string. 5th fret, 7th fret, then 9th fret. Major, minor, minor, third. And then I swap to A minor. And here, I don't even know what I did, but let me remember. I forgot. No, I remember. So I did some octaves. So the octave was on starting on the 7th fret of the D string. It was these 3 octaves here, I remember. Those ones. So you can do a little lick with that. Bass, and then I go to the D chord. And then on this chord, I just do G major pentatonic to kind of link it back to the first chord. And G major pentatonic within this diagram right here is all the notes that say 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So on the D chord, I do bass, snare, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 6, 5, 3, 1. So it's a mixture of thirds, 6s, octaves, and major pentatonic. Put them all together and you've got some cool stuff going. Now, aside from like most of the chords, I didn't really do anything interesting except for the A minor 7 chord. I did something like this. So I barred the 5th fret, and then with my 3rd finger and pinky, I played a major 6 on the 7th fret of the G and high E string. So I did that. because I like doing that sound on the 2 chord, the 2nd chord of a key. Sounds really cool and beautiful. So that was that thing. You're borrowing the 5th fret of the G and high E string. So that's going to do a major 6 on its own. Then you can use your 3 fingers, which are your 3rd and pinky, to do another major 6 up there on the 7th fret of the G and high E string. Yeah, and then go to D7 after that. Another thing you can do, which I've mentioned in the first video, is double stopping the pentatonics. So if you know your 5 pentatonic shapes, then you can double up each note of the pentatonic. To get a more punchier sound. But that's the principles behind what I'm doing. If you want more details, again, if you watch the full video, my book's on discount, and they'll teach you everything about this style and a lot more. So with all of this, it's just thinking of the guitar as more of a percussive instrument, and then just mixing that with these different intervals that I've shown you, 3rds, 6s, octaves, even 7ths. You'll learn a lot more, right? But this is a nice foundation for all of it, and that's what I'm thinking when I'm playing. And I'm not too deep into theory, like, oh, if I'm playing 1, then I have to use 1, 3, 5 and all of that. In my head, I'm just thinking what sounds nice to me. You know, I like this note here maybe. Right? I could do octaves with that, or I could do 6 over here. I'm not specifically thinking numbers at that point. I just know what my options are, and then I do 6 thirds, whatever it is. I just see them as blank dots. I'm not specifically thinking numbers. I hear the melody in my head, and instead of thinking, no, that's 7, that's 6, I gotta play this and that, I just think, no, okay, this is the melody. What if I do 6 on that? What if I do thirds on that? What if I do octaves on that? And that's how I'm thinking of, you know, this whole diatonic framework. I'm not complicating it with a lot of theory. I know the theory, and then I just think, yo, what melodies do I want? How can I make them more interesting? And this is going to be very useful for like other styles of music, because it can be applied anywhere, like R&B. Why is my